Hello and welcome to my opinions on Subnautica creature concept art from the game. This is one of a few videos where I just ramble my opinions about Subnautica concept art. Let's go. First one we have is just a bunch of the big creatures. The rock puncher, which wasn't added to the game, it was supposed to punch rocks and deform the land similarly to how the terraformer did. But when the terraformer was removed, they scrapped any idea of adding the rock puncher. You've got the stalker, the reaper leviathan, and the bone shark as well. Next up, you've got the amp eel, the Reginald, the biter, the boomerang, the Gary fish. Why did I say it like that? The Gary fish, the crab squid, and the hanging stinger, which are all creatures that are in the game. The bleeder, which is another creature that is in the game. The biter and the blighter, except it's just called the blood kelp version. Cave crawler and the blood crawler, but again, it's just called the blood kelp version. All of these are in the game. Hoopfish blood kelp reskin, the spinefish, which is also in the game. The blood kelp itself. The bone shark. I do quite like the way this one looks. This one's interesting. It's called the clown pincher, as you can see it on here. Clown pincher. And it seems to be based off clownfish, but it also kind of looks like it has a big smile and a creepy nose thing as well, which I think is suitably terrifying. My point is that this little fish is just creepy, and all these different variants aren't helping. It makes me think there's a whole circus of them coming to pinch me. This next one is the coral reef grabbers. It looks like these things, maybe relatives of the floaters, considering how they look, suspend themselves in mid-water, and then they reach down long hands to grab their prey and pull it back inside. As you can see, one's got a diver by the leg. These hands appear to be able to walk along the ground, and it also seems to be where their eyes are. I can't see anything else in this image apart from that, but it's really interesting to look at. They also kind of remind me of the bleeder with those long tentacles. The crab snake, which is another creature that is in the game in the jelly shroom forest, as you can see the jelly shroom scattered around. The crab squid, which again is in the game. The crash fish, so this is just all concept art for the crash fish. This one's interesting. It's a bunch of different concept arts for different ray versions, different versions of the ghost ray. Because currently the only ghost ray variants we have are the ghost ray itself and the crimson ray. But this one looks like it would add a purple ray. This one is already what the crimson ray looks like, except, not as solid. It's a bit transparent. So I think we can assume all of the other rays would look a bit transparent too. But you've got this blue ray, which kind of reminds me of the ghost ray itself. I don't know. But the ones that we know for sure aren't added are this purple ray and what looks like some sort of golden or leopard ray, maybe it would be called. I don't know. Some cuttlefish designs. It's a lot spikier, except if you look, it appears to be exiting from some sort of orifice, swimming a bit, and then exploding. So I don't think the cuttlefish, or in this design it's called the cute fish, because before it was the cuttlefish, it was the cute fish. But, I don't think that the cute fish / cuttlefish was originally designed to be a pet, considering it was just going to explode. I think that maybe this was the original design for the crash fish. Or, well, not the original design, but maybe the crash fish replaced it, because it looks roughly the same. Here we've got more hanging stingers. More hanging stingers with a slightly different design, if you see right here. Creature eggs, trying to design eggs that look like they belong to the creatures. just a comparison sort of thing, you know, crab squid, lava lizard, crab snake, sea emperor, crashfish, cute cuttlefish, etc. Then you've got the eye, which looks pretty much how it does in the game. You've got the floaters, that look pretty much how they do in the game. The gasopods, that look, again, almost exactly how they do in the game. Then you've got this thing, that appears to be the mushroom forest giant tree. There's not much to it, and it's a pretty small image, except for these fish that are swimming by the Cyclops, and I can't tell if they're original fish unique to this image, or just normal fish that are too blurry to tell what they are. Then you've got this creature up here, and I cannot for the life of me tell what it is, and I really want to know, because what looks like the head area is cut off. Moving on, you've got a design for the grab crab, which, if you don't know, the grab crab was another unused creature that would steal items in the area and take them back to its nest, and this would mean its nest would be full of good stuff. But from this image, it also looks pretty ferocious with terrifying teeth. Oh yeah, another thing about this. This thing here looks like some sort of because this thing here, this vehicle here, wasn't included in the technology concept art. The 6872 series... What is that? The 6872 series 042. It looks like it has fin paddle things for moving through the water, as well as two propellers, which would be very interesting. Next, you've got a version of the prawn suit. I've already gone over this image in my biomes one. But yeah, this one's just to showcase the lava lizard this time. The Mesmer. With someone thinking, ooh, so pretty. And actually, that image is familiar. Now that I see it closer, yes, I think that actually is just a Mesmer, but it's really far away. Or rather, why would it be so blurry, though, and yet still so big if it's far away? Makes me think that they were originally supposed to be giant Mesmers, but I'm probably wrong, because if you look back at the technology one, I noticed a creature that looks exactly like this in the background of one of the subs, and it was definitely far away, but it still looked about that size, and that made it look gigantic. So I don't know if that was their intention, but it definitely made it look like they had giant Mesmers. There's also this creature that looks like a version of the whole fish, maybe, or the hoop fish. I don't know. Currently, it just looks like that. Maybe that section there is an eye that might open, relation to the peeper. You've also got that up there, and I cannot for the life of me tell what that or that is. Moving on, we've got a design for the Oculus, which is pretty interesting. The Oculus and the peeper together, and a strange combination of the two of them as well, which I think is very interesting. The Oculus and the Aquabird. So it would seem like the peeper was originally called the Aquabird, which makes sense because it has a little beak on it. And it makes me think that the Oculus was actually designed first. A more Reaper Leviathan concept art, except it has a longer face, or a taller face, rather. This reefback art is amazing. I really like this reefback art. The reefback is surrounded by these creatures that look like they have 3 arms, or maybe that's a proboscis? Proboscis? I don't know. Again, a lot of these videos are just filled with me going, I don't know. Whoa, here it is. Look at it. But you've also got these creatures over here that look like they simultaneously move with tentacles but have really strong arms as well, which is amusing when you start to see these things as arms. But someone appears to be approaching it on another piece of technology that wasn't included in the technology video. Some sort of manta ray type seamoth thing that appears to have little arms on the front. And a seamoth with little arms on the front would be incredibly useful. More rock puncher fan art. Nothing really new here. He's just punching a rock like he was supposed to. And it looks like he's disturbed a nest of rock grubs. And there's a boomerang in the background, and apart from that, oh, there's also a whole fish up there. But apart from that, that's really all there is to it, this one. And again, you've probably seen this one a million times, because it's in almost every video on Unused Subnautica stuff. This video of a sand shark chasing whatever this is. Judging by the way the bubbles are moving, it makes me think that this thing was going... Well, it's got the little tentacles and it's shaped like a wheel. So I think it was supposed to spin through the water, which would be a very interesting thing to watch. It also looks adorable. I'd want to have one in an aquarium. In the background, you've got these things that appear to move with one tentacle, or maybe two, one flagella-like thing, and this thing that I cannot make out. It might be a creature, it might just be a bit of plant matter, might be a boomerang from an odd angle, I don't know. Concept art for the Sea Dragon Leviathan, which is pretty self-explanatory. Concept art for the Sea Emperor Leviathan, and this is pretty close to the one they went with. Almost exactly, I believe. Except the size it's depicted a bit smaller here, which doesn't represent its actual size. But then you've got this alternate design for it that was never used. It was an early concept. If you'll notice, if I switch between them, you'll start to notice the differences. I'll do this for a bit so that you can get to notice them. But yeah, this one has the sea turtle-like flippers, whereas this one has claw hands, similarly to the sea dragon. But not only that, if you look back at this one, it's got very interesting markings, but this one's markings are designed to make it look a lot more like a sea turtle. Moving on, we have the sea treaders, and they're pretty self-explanatory. An amp eel chasing some hoopfish, again, pretty self-explanatory. This is some sort of red amp eel. Some sort of angry red amp eel with a pink eye. Maybe some alternate design, or maybe an variant, I don't know. Variant of the shuttlebug, or as it's called here, the shuttle crawler. You've got all these different color schemes. Different color schemes for the tiger plant. This one's probably the closest to the one that they went with. The rest of them just look a bit silly, honestly. This is interesting, because while this may just look like aggressive fauna in general, this is actually titled Tiger Plant Concept Art 2. Let me just check that again. So I checked, and yeah, this is just tiger plant stuff. So these were all original designs for the tiger plant, including, as we'll see later on, the spike trap plant. So the spike trap is based off an old tiger plant design. But you've got down here you've got the design that they used, this one. But starting at number 1, we've got what looks like a spiky pillar leading up to a point, which doesn't seem like it'd be very good at attacking. A spiky orb with stuff going out in all directions would be slightly better. The spike trap, which I'll actually talk about once we reach it. This, that looks like it wouldn't be able to aim at you, really. The tiger plant, this design is one of the best because it actually looks like I'd be able to aim at you. This one is interesting because it doesn't look really spiky. It looks like it's firing thick bars at you, which would be much worse if one impaled you, because, I mean, just think about it. Which would you rather have in you, a spike or a metal spear? But the thing is, this one, these little things at the bottom kind of make it look skull-like, which is a bit intimidating, which is probably what they intended when they made that design. Down here you've got this design that they used for the tiger plant. At number 7, we have this design, which is a bit difficult to describe. At number 8, we have this design that is a bunch of orbs on stems with spikes going around the side of the orb, which would also be able to aim, it looks like. With this one, we've got a central doodad with a bunch of non-spiky stuff coming out of the top. Non-spiky stuff. A bunch of just little things coming out of the top, and a bunch of tubes connecting to the base. And at number 10, I think we have probably the most interesting one. This one, this part of it looks fleshy to me. This part looks hard, and it's got spikes in the hard part, but it actually looks like this one has feet. So a plant that would be able to walk around on the seabed. That would be very interesting. Moving on to the very next one, we have the spike trap. This is two different color schemes for the spike trap. But if you look, the spike trap was originally a well, not even originally. It wasn't really added, but the idea was that if you ran into one of its spikes that dangled above it, you would be stuck by it, and it will pull you down into its mouth and consume you. And that's how it got its prey. Moving on, next we have this concept art for the coronavirus. That is pretty much what they used. This one is really interesting. We're getting into the big creatures now. You know, the concept arts that people use for YouTube clickbait. But this one is the... Well, it doesn't have a name. It's called the Turtle. Its name is just Turtle, because they never gave it a name. But it has those Sea Emperor style fins. This one will be definitely Leviathan class. It has these huge orbs on the back that are either something gasopod or reefback-like, because the reefback and gasopods both have big yellow orbs as a part of them, yellowy-greeny, or it might be something similar to the membrane tree, where this membrane protects an internal ecosystem. And this would be something like the turtle that carries the world on its back. It's carrying tiny worlds on its back, tiny ecosystems, which I think would be fascinating. Up next, we've got this concept art of a diver being a warper running away from a diver. And the warper, the only real interesting thing about this one is that the warper has made a portal instead of a just warping itself, really. Actually, I lied. That's not the only interesting thing. You've got this weird flora on the seabed, as well as these little fish over here that I can't really see, and this thing in the background that's too in the background to make out. So, that's that. Moving on, we have this whale leviathan that is being studied by two people. Before we get onto it, these fish, haven't seen them except in this concept art. They appear really similar to the boomerang in design. This whale would need a lot of space. So it'd be a more... Because reefbacks get away with being so big because they're quite flat for a huge creature. And their shells protect them for when they do bash into something. A whale wouldn't have that luxury. So a whale would need a lot of space somewhere like the dead zone. Or a biome that's really deep but not quite the dead zone. It's covered in yellow barnacles, which are interesting because, well, to me they're interesting. To no one else, they're not interesting to anyone else. But the only barnacles you really see in Subnautica are green barnacles and blue barnacles. Something else. This diver here appears to be touching the whale's chin. I don't think this Leviathan is aggressive, because if you look, it's not killing them, and they're trusting it enough to get close. But they're touching it, and it's giving off a sort of effect on the whale's skin, which is interesting. Here we've got a bunch of small generic species, which are anything but generic. The ones that I recognize immediately are ones that we used, or I used almost this design, such as the Reginald, the Garyfish, the Spadefish, and the Eye. But apart from that, there's not much here that I recognize. I'm not even really going to say much about this one, because I wouldn't know where to begin. You've got these two that kind of look like the whole fish, but that's just because they have holes in them. This one kind of looks like the crash fish, I guess, with the one eye in the center of its forehead gimmick. I don't know. Take from this what you will. Here you've got another really fascinating design for a Leviathan class creature. It doesn't actually appear to be too far down from the surface either, so you've got to wonder what biome this would be intended for. It's surrounded by these jellyfish creatures, which is interesting because I don't think there are any jellyfish-like creatures in Subnautica unless you discount their hanging stingers. So jellyfish creatures would be really good. Really interesting. But they just appear to glow blue, and that's really all that they seem to be doing right now. They've got a design for the Cyclops that wasn't in the the technology concept art either, and they're just gazing upon it. From the way it's looking at them, it kind of displays... well, to me, it kind of looks intelligent, like an old man of the sea kind of thing. But, no way to tell for sure. Moving on, we have this creature, which is just plain weird. It's got the one-eye gimmick, so it's definitely related to the Peeper in some capacity. But it's just... yeah, it kind of looks like... if you look at it, because it's a bit difficult to even make out what shape it is at first, but after looking at it for a bit, you'll get it. That sort of diamond-shaped shell makes me think of the reef back, and that one eye makes me think of the Peeper or crash fish. So maybe this thing, Peepers evolved into... Peepers evolved into these, which evolved into these, which evolved into reefbacks, maybe? I don't know. You've got this creature that looks like a deep-sea earthfish. Looks like it has some electric stuff going on inside it, so maybe hurting it wouldn't be the best idea. But this one has two variants. If I look at the next bit, it's just the same creature but with different features, such as this freaky jaw. And I'll switch between them so that you get the idea of what's been changed. Just thin changes to make them look, more aggressive. More aggressive somehow, as if that were possible. And the freaky mouth. The next creature we have is this thing. It doesn't appear to have many fins. It's shaped like an arrowhead. Yeah, let's go with that. It's in some sort of biome made up of cubes of material that make me think of salt deposits, maybe? Who knows? But, yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's got a couple eyes up here, and it appears to be armored up until this point where it becomes fleshy. It seems to be letting this diver ride on it. Also, this diver's holding a piece of equipment that I've never seen before. Apart from the main focus of this image, you've got these creatures over here that are also pretty unique to themselves. They have little hoop jaws. But the next image is also a variant of this one. Actually, wait, before I move on. The title of this is Coral Zone Creature. So presumably this was some sort of coral, this cube coral. The Coral Zone Creature. Right. But the Coral Zone Creature also apparently has this. Well, maybe this is all one creature, maybe the head detaches, or maybe this is just a different, creature design altogether. But either one of them would be freaky and alien enough for me. It appears to be trying to feed on a colourful version of one of these. Maybe that's what these look like in the light, or maybe that's just a different variant. Who knows? Coming up, we've got these that are... and I'll go through them one by one. One is the bullyfish, and it looks like a little floating pod in the water, maybe related to the floater, that just sort of floats there, and it has all these eyes, and what it looks like it's doing to this fish up here is shooting out its eye to stick them and drag them into its mouth, which I think would be really interesting. Speaking of this fish up here, the next one is the axatol. It's either the axatol or the axatoil, and I don't know which is which. I can't tell because that could be an I or an L. Make of it what you will. And it's just this little generic fish whose name is quite clearly taken from axolotl. Next up at number 3, you've got the bellhop, which is just an amusing name. Quite clearly named because it has a bell-shaped mushroom cone and it hops. It's most likely, I don't know whether it's a fungus or flora or fauna or anything, because all we have to go by is this image of the bellhop hopping around. Next we got these things called witch's grasp, which are skeletal hand-like creatures that would probably try and grab your feet or something if you swam too close to them. Maybe gnaw on you a bit while they had you. Hold on you till you drown. Now, this is actually... I was quite surprised when I saw those, because I actually designed a creature for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that was a skeletal hand shellfish thing, without ever seeing this. I first saw this today and I even called it the Grasp. I designed it weeks ago. So I guess the idea of an underwater hand fish is pretty common. Next you've got, down here at number 5, you've got Gabe's Feather, which is the only one of these to have actually made it into the game. Gabe's Feather. It's a findable plant. So I'll skip over it. Next at 6, we have the sea udder. Where is the sea udder? Oh, here it is. Just spent time looking for it. It's this pink bulbous thing. Now, I'm going to be making a video on unscannable flora and fauna from the game, stuff that you see in the details, like the grasses that coat the ground that you can't scan because they're just decorative, and those fascinate me. And this thing definitely looks like it's related in some way to either the eye stalk, because of the way it grows with the little bulbs, or the little pink bulb plant. It's actually more closely related to the eye stalk now I think about it. Up next you have the trapper. And these appear to be floating sacks, again, maybe related to the floater. Maybe it and the bullyfish are related. Who knows? But it appears to have a whole bunch of eyes in this section, with little hanging things down here, and it tethers itself to the seabed so it can float upwards. It's called the trapper, so I assume it's hostile, or maybe it would just stay there till something brushes against it, then drag it down. I don't know. Again, there's another I don't know. At number 8, we have spinnerfish. That upon first hearing it, you may think that, oh, spinnerfish is just something that would spin webs like a spider, but I think it's just because they would spin while moving. But yeah, they're jellyfish-like things, and if you actually look at their head, the cap, it's an amoeboid. The developers quite clearly designed this spinnerfish, and when they realized they weren't going to use it, they took the design of its cap head and redesigned it into the amoeboid parasite creature that you see in areas such as the Lost River. I really hope I'm saying amoeboid right and it's not amoeboid. Damn it, it's probably amoeboid. Moving on, we've got the pianist. The pianist? Yeah, I think that's it. The pianist. Down here at number 9. And I think it might be called the pianist, or the pianist, however you want to pronounce it if you want to have a little giggle, because maybe they would go down like fingers on the keyboard of a piano. It looks like a flora species, but it might be fauna, who knows. And finally, you've got the sea cone at number 10, which is a pretty boring one to end on, but it looks like a red cone ending in a bunch of little bulbs. That's this concept art. Took a while to explain that one, didn't it? Moving on, we have the final image, which is one of those creatures from the biomes video that I said might be related to a hoopfish. According to the wiki, this is called a snap, and it's an unused fish that would probably be related to the hoopfish. If anything, it either was turned into the hoopfish, or it was removed because it was too similar to the hoopfish. But yeah, that's really all I have in this video. Thank you for watching if you did. See ya.